Welcome back. Joining me now is the moderator of NBC's Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, for a look at what you can expect on this morning's show. Kristen, good morning.
Hi, Christy. Good morning. Good to be with you.
This morning, you are sitting down with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the Israel-Hamas war continues right now. Just days ago, the White House announced daily 4-hour pauses in Gaza. What is the Prime Minister saying about this next phase in the war?
Well, I will ask him about that, Christy. But look, in a defiant news conference on Saturday, Prime Minister Netanyahu said there will be no ceasefire. We know that there have been growing calls for a ceasefire. He says that's not going to happen until the hostages are released, until Hamas is eradicated. So he is squarely focused on that ultimate goal. But of course, you are seeing the civilian death toll rise. Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying this week that the Palestinian civilian death toll is too high. You have French President Emmanuel Macron saying that there should be a ceasefire, and then zooming out, you have hundreds of thousands of protesters who have taken to the streets all over the world, from London to New York and beyond, calling for an end to the civilian deaths. So the key question for the Prime Minister is what's being done to try to mitigate those civilian deaths, to try to address the humanitarian crisis that's unfolding inside Gaza, to try to help those who are at, for example, Al-Shifa Hospital, where you are seeing yet another humanitarian crisis unfold. The hospital now without fuel, without power, and some of the sick patients there, including infants, have lost their lives because of it. So a lot of questions, and the international pressure is mounting, not just on Prime Minister Netanyahu, but on President Biden as well, who has stood firmly beside the Prime Minister and who's now both publicly and privately urging a pause to some of the fighting so that some of that humanitarian relief can get in. Christy?
It is tough to watch this play out. Kristen, another big story you'll be following this morning, the changing political landscape. Elections wrapped up on Tuesday. You are sitting down with the Democratic senator and the chairwoman from the RNC. What do you think they're going to say about the 2024 outlook?
Well, we'll have to see, but boy, was it a mixed bag. On the one hand, you had Republicans who had a very tough night on Tuesday. They had big losses in Ohio, where abortion rights were enshrined in the state law there. Democrats swept the Virginia state legislature. Democrat Andy Beshear held on to his position as the governor in that deeply red state. And so Republicans are undoubtedly taking a look at what went wrong and what needs to shift. On the other hand, you have these really challenging poll numbers for President Biden, which show former President Trump beating him in key battleground states, adding to the mix the fact that Democratic West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has announced that he's not running for re-election. The reason why that's such a big deal is because not only does it make it more likely that Republicans could potentially flip the Senate, but of course we know that Manchin has been eyeing a potential third-party run. What would that mean for President Biden? That would be hugely significant. So we will talk to our guests about all of that. Senator Chris Murphy and RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel coming up on the show.
A lot
Christy.
to talk about this morning. Kristen, thank you. Meet the Press airs at 10, right after 11 Alive Weekend Morning News.